My own daughter locked us in the car and sent it over the cliff. Among the twisted metal and the stench of gasoline, bleeding, I heard my husband whisper, "Don't move. Pretend you're dead." When she left, he dragged himself toward me and revealed a secret worse than death. In that moment, I realized that the last 17 years of my life had been a carefully crafted lie. My name is Brielle. I'm 42 years old, and until that night, I believed I knew my family. I thought I knew my husband Dashiell, the man I had been married to for 2 decades. I thought I knew my daughter Sloane, the 17-year-old girl I had raised since birth. But at the bottom of that ravine, with the taste of blood in my mouth and the dashboard pressed into my ribs, I discovered I knew nothing at all. It all began 6 months earlier, when I found the hidden phone. I wasn't looking for it. I swear I wasn't. I was just cleaning Dashiell's office, wiping dust off the shelves, when my hand brushed against something cold behind a row of law books he never read. An old flip phone, tucked between a dusty volume on real estate contracts and another on inheritance law. I turned it on. The battery was full, which meant someone had been using it regularly. There was only one number saved in the contacts, no name, just the initials RM. The messages were brief, coded, nothing that made immediate sense. Package received. Transfer confirmed. Next delivery next week. I confronted Dashiell that same night. He was in the kitchen making coffee, still wearing the gray suit he used at the law firm. I placed the phone on the marble counter with a sharp thud. "What is this?" I asked. He looked at the phone, then at me. He didn't look surprised, didn't pretend confusion. He just sighed, as if he were tired of carrying a burden he could finally put down. "It's work, Brielle. Just work. Work that needs to be hidden behind dusty books? Work you don't need to understand." That answer should have alarmed me more than it did. But I had been married to Dashiell for 20 years. I knew his silences, his evasions, the way he built walls around certain parts of his life. I always thought it was just his nature, the reserved temperament of a lawyer used to guarding client secrets. He took the phone back, powered it off, slipped it into his pocket. "I'll get rid of it, I promise." And I believed him, even though something heavy settled in my stomach when he looked away. I tried to ignore it, telling myself it was only fatigue. But Sloane didn't believe him. My daughter was 17, a high school senior planning to study marine biology at the University of Washington. She was a quiet, studious girl who spent hours in her room reading or sketching sea creatures in thick notebooks. She wasn't the kind of teenager who caused trouble or questioned authority, until she started questioning everything. 2 weeks after the phone incident, Sloane walked into the living room while I was folding laundry. She sat beside me on the couch, legs crossed, fingers nervously tugging at the hem of her t-shirt. "Mom, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Do you really trust Dad?" The question caught me off guard. I froze, a towel in my hands, staring at her serious face. She had her father's green eyes, his broad forehead, but something in her expression that moment was different. Sharper, colder. "Why are you asking me that? Just answer. Do you trust him?" "Yes, I do. He's my husband, Sloane. Your father." She nodded slowly, as if storing the information in some mental file I couldn't access. "What if I told you he's not who you think he is?" My stomach tightened. "What do you mean by that?" "Nothing. Forget it." She stood up too quickly and left the room before I could press her. That night, when Dashiell came home, I told him about the conversation. I expected him to be concerned, to want to talk to her, to figure out what was going through her mind. But he only frowned, looked away, muttered something about dramatic teenagers, and went upstairs. The weeks that followed were strange. Sloane started watching me differently, as if studying a lab specimen. She asked random questions about my past, about how Dashiell and I met, about her pregnancy, about our early years of marriage. Questions that seemed harmless on their own, but together formed a pattern I couldn't decipher. "Do you have pictures of your belly when you were pregnant with me? Which hospital was I born in again? Was Grandma there for the delivery?" I answered everything patiently, thinking it was just teenage curiosity about her origins. But Sloane wrote the answers down in a small notebook she carried everywhere. She wrote them down and never showed me. Then came the night everything fell apart. It was a Friday in November. Cold, that damp northwestern cold that seeps into your bones. I was making dinner, a beef stew Sloane had always loved, when she came downstairs carrying an old shoebox. I need you both to see something, she said, setting the box on the kitchen table. Dashiell was in the living room watching the news. I called for him. He came slowly, hands in his pockets, his expression carefully neutral. What is this, Sloane? I asked. She opened the box. Inside were papers, photographs, documents I had never seen before. She spread them across the table like a detective presenting evidence at a crime scene. I found this in the attic, inside a locked suitcase hidden behind the Christmas boxes. My heart began to race. I picked up one of the photographs. A young woman, maybe in her 20s, dark hair, wide smile. She was holding a baby wrapped in a pink blanket. On the back, a date, 17 years ago, the month Sloane was born. Who is this woman? I asked, my voice thinner than I intended. Dashiell didn't answer. He was pale, his eyes fixed on the photo. Sloane grabbed another document, a birth certificate. I read the mother's name. It wasn't mine. Explain this, Dad, Sloane demanded, her voice trembling with contained fury. Explain why my birth certificate has another woman's name on it. The silence that followed was thick, suffocating. I looked at Dashiell, waiting for him to say it was a mistake, a forgery, anything that made sense. But he only closed his eyes, his jaw locked, like a man accepting the sentence he had always known was coming. Brielle, he began, his voice hoarse. I can explain. But before he could go on, Sloane slammed her hand on the table. No, not to her, to me. You owe me that explanation. Dashiell sat down slowly, his shoulders slumped as if the weight of the truth had finally crushed him. He didn't look at either of us, only at his own hands clasped on the table. The woman in the photo is Ramona Mitchell, he said, and her name left his lips like a confession. She is Sloane's biological mother. My knees went weak. I leaned against the kitchen counter, trying to process those words. Biological mother. As if I were just a stand-in, a woman who had kept someone else's place warm. You adopted her baby? I asked, my voice barely audible. We adopted her? Not exactly. Not exactly? I repeated, my voice rising. What the hell does not exactly mean? Sloane was motionless, her face a mask of restrained fury. She had discovered the truth on her own, had investigated, pieced it together, and now she was waiting for her father to finally give the full story. Dashiell took a deep breath. Ramona was my client. She was in an abusive relationship. Her boyfriend was violent, a drug dealer. When she found out she was pregnant, she came to me for help. She wanted to escape that life, to protect the baby. I helped her, got her new documents, a safe place to stay during the pregnancy. When Sloane was born, Ramona begged me to keep her. She said she couldn't be a mother, that her boyfriend would kill her if he found out about the baby. And you just accepted that? I asked, incredulous. You brought a baby home and pretended she was ours? You wanted so badly to be a mother, Brielle. We had tried for years. The treatments failed, and you were shattered. When Ramona offered me that chance, I thought I was solving two problems at once, saving a child and giving you the family you dreamed of. My dream? I laughed, a bitter sound that didn't feel like my own. My dream was to build a family with you, not to live inside a lie. I was going to tell you, I always meant to, but the longer I waited, the harder it became. You loved Sloane. You were the perfect mother. How could I destroy that? Sloane finally spoke, her voice cold. So you stole me. You stole my real mother and gave me to a stranger. No, Dashiell said quickly, reaching a hand toward her. Ramona didn't want you. She made that clear. She signed papers, gave up all her rights. She chose to leave you. Fake papers, Sloane spat. Because legal adoption requires a process, a judge, social workers. You skipped all of it. You committed a crime. He didn't deny it. He just lowered his head. I picked up another document from the box. A series of bank transfers, large sums paid monthly to an account under the name R.M. Ramona Mitchell. You're still paying her, I said, my voice calmer than I felt. The hidden phone, the messages, it's her. She was blackmailing me, Dashiell admitted, and for the first time I heard something like despair in his voice. It started 5 years ago. She said if I didn't pay, she'd tell everything. She'd show up at the door, make a scene, take Sloane back. Can she do that? I asked, looking at him. Legally? Legally, we don't exist as Sloane's parents. The birth certificate we filed is fake. If anyone looks closely, everything falls apart. I lose my law license. I go to prison for forgery. And Sloane, he turned to his daughter, his eyes finally meeting hers. You'd end up in the system, or worse, back with Ramona. Sloane stepped back as if he had struck her. So you kept me trapped in a lie to save yourself. To protect you. To protect our family. What family? She shouted, and it was the first time I'd ever heard her scream like that, raw with pain. This is all a farce. You're a liar, and she's an idiot who believed everything. The words hit me like a blow. An idiot. That's what I was. A woman who had spent 17 years believing in a fantasy, cradling a child that wasn't hers, building memories on a foundation of lies. Sloane, I didn't know, I tried to explain, taking a step toward her. I swear I didn't know any of this. It doesn't matter, she said, her voice breaking. You're not my mother. The words tore me apart. 17 years of sleepless nights, scraped knees, bedtime hugs, all of it unraveled in that moment. I raised you, I whispered. I love you as my daughter. Love built on lies is still a lie. She grabbed the box, gathered all the papers, and went upstairs. I heard the door slam hard enough to make the frames on the wall rattle. I was alone in the kitchen with Dashiell. The stew simmering on the stove gave off a scent of meat and vegetables that now made me sick. I turned off the burner and faced the man I had shared 2 decades of my life with. You destroyed everything, I said simply. I know. And you still have the nerve to say you did it for me? He lifted his face, and for the first time in years, I saw tears in his eyes. I did. At first, I did it for you. Later, I did it out of fear. Fear of losing both of you. Fear that the truth would destroy what we built. The truth always destroys, Dashiell. It's the lie you build around it that decides how big the explosion will be. I went upstairs to Sloane's room, knocked on the door. She didn't answer. I tried the handle. Locked. Sloane, please, can we talk? There's nothing to talk about. You're nothing to me. I leaned against the door, listening to the muffled sobs on the other side. My daughter, or the daughter of another woman, raised unknowingly in a role written by my own husband. Have you ever found out your entire life was a lie? The days that followed were a silent kind of hell. Sloane barely left her room, refused to eat, stopped going to school. When she needed to use the bathroom or get water from the kitchen, she waited until she was sure I wasn't around. She avoided me as if I were contagious. Dashiell slept on the living room couch. He didn't even try to negotiate his way back into the bedroom. He knew he'd lost that right. Maybe he'd lost every right. I spent the nights awake, staring at the ceiling, reliving every moment of the past 17 years, searching for signs I should have noticed. There had to be something. Some detail I ignored, some inconsistency I overlooked. But the more I searched, the more I realized how meticulous Dashiell had been. He'd built the lie brick by brick, filling every gap, anticipating every question. The pregnancy photos he'd shown me were of another woman, taken from afar, her face always blurred. He told me I was too swollen, that he didn't want to capture that stage. And I believed him, because women believe it when men tell them they're not beautiful. The hospital documents he brought home had been forged. He was a lawyer, had access to official stationery, knew people who could replicate signatures. It hadn't been hard for him. And my mother, who should have found it strange never to see my belly grow, never to be present for the birth, she had died of cancer when I was 23, 3 years before Sloane was born. Dashiell had chosen the perfect timing. No inconvenient family witnesses left alive. On the 5th night after the revelation, I heard noise coming from Sloane's room. It was 2 a.m. I got up quietly, walked down the hall, pressed my ear to the door. She was talking to someone on the phone, her voice low but urgent. I know it's you. I saw the photos. I just want to talk. Please. Silence while the other person responded. No, he doesn't know I found you. He can't know. My heart raced. She had found Ramona. She'd gotten the number, made contact, was talking to her biological mother behind Dashiell's back. All right. Tomorrow then. I'll find a way to get out. She hung up. I heard the creak of the mattress as she lay down. I stood there in the dark hallway, trying to process. Sloane was going to meet Ramona. She was going to meet the woman who had given birth to her, who had handed her to a corrupt lawyer without a second thought. Should I stop her? Should I tell Dashiell? I went downstairs. He was awake, lying on the couch with his arm over his eyes. She's talking to Ramona, I said, my heart pounding. He sat up instantly. What? How do you know? I heard her on the phone. They're meeting tomorrow. He ran his hands through his hair. No, Ramona is dangerous. She'll twist Sloane's mind. More than you already did? He looked at me as if I had struck him. Ramona doesn't care about Sloane's well-being. She wants money. She's always wanted money. If she convinces Sloane to side with her, she can use her to extort me even more. Or worse, she could disappear with her. Sloane is 17. She's not a child you can drag away against her will. You have no idea what Ramona's capable of. If she convinces Sloane that we're the villains in this story, she'll succeed, and then we'll lose our daughter for real. She isn't my daughter, I whispered, and it was the first time I said it out loud. She never was. Don't say that. Dashiell stood, came closer. You are her mother, in every way that matters. Ramona only provided the DNA. You gave her everything else. The love, the care, the years. Years built on a lie. Even so, they were real to Sloane. Until last week, they were real to her. I wanted to believe that. Wanted to hold on to the idea that the love I'd built with Sloane couldn't be erased by a single revelation, no matter how devastating. But the way she looked at me now, with that cold contempt, told me otherwise. What do you want me to do? I asked, too tired to argue. Tomorrow, when she leaves to meet Ramona, we'll follow her. We have to be there. We have to protect our daughter. Follow her in secret? Dashiell, that'll only make things worse. We don't have a choice. If we let Ramona sink her claws into Sloane alone, we might lose her forever. I knew he was right, though I hated admitting it. Ramona was an unknown. A woman who had sold her own child, who'd been extorting money for years, who had lived with a violent dealer. What kind of person was that? What kind of influence could she have on a confused, wounded teenager? The next morning, Sloane came down for breakfast for the first time in days. She was dressed up, makeup on, her hair tied in a high ponytail. She ignored me completely, poured herself a glass of orange juice. I'm going out, she said to no one in particular. Not sure what time I'll be back. Where to? Dashiell asked, trying to sound casual. Library. I need to research for a project. The lie was obvious. She'd never mentioned any project before, but Dashiell just nodded. All right. Be careful. She left without looking back. We waited 5 minutes. Then we grabbed the car keys and followed. We trailed the bus she took from the corner. She got off downtown, in front of a small cafe near the public market. We parked across the street where we could see through the window. Sloane went inside, looked around. Then a woman rose from a table in the back. Dark hair, gaunt face, hollow eyes. Ramona. Even 17 years older, she was unmistakably the woman from the photographs. They sat down. Ramona took Sloane's hands across the table. She spoke intensely, leaning forward. Sloane listened, her face a mix of fascination and pain. What do you think she's saying? I asked, my voice hoarse. Probably that I forced her to give up the baby. That she wanted to keep Sloane, but I didn't let her. That I'm the monster who ruined her life. Is that a lie? He hesitated for 1 second too long. Not the way she'll tell it. We watched for another 15 minutes. Ramona cried. Sloane cried. They hugged, a long embrace that cut through me like a blade. My daughter, not my daughter, in the arms of the woman who had abandoned her. Then Ramona handed something to Sloane. A brown envelope. Sloane opened it, pulled out papers, read quickly. Her face changed. The sadness turned to fury. She slammed the papers on the table, stood up, pushed the chair back so hard that a few people in the cafe turned to look. She ran out. Ramona remained seated, a small smile on her lips, a smile that sent a chill down my spine. What did she give Sloane? I whispered. Dashiell was pale, his hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly that his knuckles were white. I don't know. But it can't be anything good. Sloane did not come home. We called her cell dozens of times. Every call went straight to voicemail. We texted. Nothing. It was as if she had been swallowed by the city, erased into Seattle's gray afternoon. Dashiell wanted to look in the obvious places, friends' houses, school, the pier where she liked to sketch the water. But I thought I knew my daughter. No, wait. I thought I knew her. After everything that had happened, I was no longer sure what I knew about anyone. At 8 that night, she finally came back. She walked in through the front door, passed straight through us in the living room, as if we were furniture. She went up to her room. She locked the door. Dashiell went first. He knocked, called her name, begged. Nothing. Then I went. I put my hand on the door, laid my forehead against the cool wood. Sloane, please. We were worried. Worried, she repeated from the other side, sarcasm thick in her voice. How touching. The woman who pretended to be my mother is worried. I swallowed the ache. What did Ramona give you? What were those papers? Silence. Then footsteps. The door opened suddenly. Sloane stood there, face raw from crying, eyes bloodshot. She shoved a crumpled paper into my chest. Read it, and tell me you still think I deserve to call that man my father. My hands trembled as I took the paper. It was a handwritten letter, dated 17 years earlier. The handwriting was feminine, slanted, urgent. Dashiell, I am begging you, do not do this. I know I am confused. I said terrible things this last week, but please do not take my daughter from me. Do not use my weakness against me. I can be a mother. I will be a mother. I only need time. Please give me back my baby. Please, Ramona. My stomach turned. I read it again, then again, as if the words might change on the page. I looked at Dashiell. He stood in the middle of the room, face like stone. Explain this, I demanded. Explain this letter. It is taken out of context. Ramona was having an episode. She was using drugs, unstable. That day she came to me saying she wanted the baby back. Then the next day she changed her mind again. It was like that all the time. She did not know what she wanted. So you decided for her, Sloane screamed. You decided to steal her child because you thought you knew better? I saved you. Ramona was not capable. Her boyfriend was violent. She was deep in debt with dealers. If you had stayed with her, you would be dead or worse. That is a lie, Sloane said. And for the first time her voice was calm. Too calm. Ramona told me the truth. The violent boyfriend was your invention. You needed a justification to take me from her. She was young, desperate, and you took advantage. You paid her to sign the papers, and when she tried to take them back, you threatened to ruin her life. You made up evidence, forged stories, silenced the woman who wanted her own daughter. That is absurd, Dashiell tried to say, but his voice failed. Is it true? I asked. Look me in the eye and tell me it is a lie. He would not look. Oh my God, I whispered. You really stole her daughter. I did what was right. Ramona did not deserve to be a mother. She was irresponsible, immature. You deserved Brielle. You deserved that child more than she did. Who are you to decide who deserves what? Sloane advanced on him, fists clenched. Who the hell do you think you are? Dashiell backed away, hands raised in a defensive gesture. Sloane, you do not understand. I did it out of love, for you and for your mother. She is not my mother. The words echoed through the house. It felt as though someone had ripped my heart from my chest and thrown it on the floor. 17 years reduced to 5 words. She is not my mother. Sloane, I tried, reaching for her. She recoiled as if my touch burned. Do not touch me. You knew. You had to know. No one is that stupid. I did not know. I swear on everything holy, I had no idea. Then you are worse than I thought. Pathetic. A woman who let a man control everything, who accepted a baby without asking questions, who chose to believe because it was easier than facing the truth. Each word was a blade. She was right. I had been all of that. A woman desperate for a child, so consumed by my own desire that I did not question when the miracle came wrapped in persuasive lies. I loved you, I whispered. Every day, every moment. That love was real. Love does not take a child from her true mother. Love does not build a family on theft. Dashiell stepped forward. Ramona abandoned you. She signed the papers. She took the money. She made a choice. Under coercion. You just admitted you threatened her. I protected you. You stole me, Sloane shouted so loud my head throbbed. And now you stand there pretending it was heroism when all you did was rip a baby from a frightened mother's arms because your infertile wife needed a new toy. Dashiell slapped Sloane. The sound was sharp, final. She brought her hand to her face, eyes wide with shock. I was in shock too. In 20 years of marriage, I had never seen Dashiell raise a hand to anyone. Never speak of your mother like that again, he said, voice low and dangerous. Sloane touched her reddened cheek, then looked at her hand as if she expected to see blood. When she looked back at Dashiell, something in her face had shifted. The anger had cooled and crystallized into something denser, pure hatred. "You will pay for this," she said simply. She turned and went up to her room. This time she did not bang the door. She closed it with a soft click that somehow sounded more threatening than any slam. I was alone with Dashiell. He stared at his hand as if it belonged to someone else. "I did not mean to," he murmured. "She provoked me, said horrible things about you. And you proved her right," I answered, my voice cold. "You proved that you solve everything with force, with control, with violence when it is convenient." It was not violence. It was a slap. She was hysterical. "Get out of my way. Brielle, leave. Now." He left. He went up to the guest room at the end of the hall. I heard the door close. I walked slowly up to Sloane's room. The door stood slightly ajar. She sat on the bed, still touching her face, staring into nothing. "May I come in?" I asked softly. She did not answer, but she did not tell me to go either. I entered and sat on the edge of the bed, keeping my distance. "I am sorry," I began, "for everything, for not knowing, for not protecting you, for believing lies that hurt you. Apologies do not change anything. I know, but I need you to know the love was real. It may have started wrong, may have been built on lies, but every night I stayed by your side when you were sick, every hug, every kind word, it was real." She finally looked at me. "Do you think that matters? Do you think love erases the fact my whole life is a fraud? It does not erase it, but maybe it means not everything is lost." "Everything is lost," she said, her voice so tired. "I do not know who I am anymore. I do not know if I am Sloane Carson or Ramona Mitchell's daughter. I do not know if I should hate you or pity you. I only know I cannot stay in this house pretending we are a family." My chest tightened. "What are you saying?" "I am saying I am leaving. Ramona asked me to come live with her. She said she has a small apartment in Tacoma, that I can finish school there, that she wants to meet me for real." "Sloane, no. You do not know that woman." "And do I know you? I thought I did. I was wrong. Please, give me a chance. Give us a chance to fix this." "There is nothing to fix." She stood, grabbed a backpack from the closet, started tossing clothes inside. "I leave on Friday. Ramona will pick me up at 3 in the afternoon. Do not try to stop me. You are 17. You are still a minor. And you are not my legal guardians, remember? If you try to keep me, I will tell everything to the police. Dashiell will go to prison. You will lose everything. So it is better to let me go in peace." She was right. We were trapped in a web Dashiell had woven, and any abrupt move would make everything collapse on our heads. I rose from the bed and walked to the door. I turned to look at her one last time. "I will always be your mother," I said. "No matter what happens, no matter where you go. If you need me, I will be here." She did not answer. She kept packing as if I had already left the room. I went down to the kitchen. I needed water, air, anything to loosen the tightness in my chest. I opened the refrigerator with no real purpose, just needing a motion, a mechanical action to anchor me. Dashiell appeared in the doorway. "She is leaving, is she not?" "Friday. Ramona is picking her up. We cannot let this happen. We have no choice. If we try to stop it, she reports everything. You go to jail. I lose any chance of ever having her back." He punched the countertop. "Ramona planned this. She manipulated Sloane, planted all these ideas in her head. She is using our daughter to get revenge." "Our daughter?" I repeated. "Now she is ours? When it suits you? Do not start. You made this, Dashiell. You made every piece of this tragedy, and now we will all pay the price." Friday came too quickly. The days before it passed in a kind of trance, my mind rehearsing for the loss that was drawing near. Sloane barely left her room. When she did, it was only to grab food or use the bathroom, always avoiding me, always with that cold, hard look that said I was less than nothing to her. Dashiell tried to convince her to stay on Thursday night. He knocked on her door, begged her to talk, promised we could fix everything as a family. She shouted back that he had lost the right to use that word, family, as if family were something that had ever existed in that house. Friday morning I woke early, 5:30. It was still dark outside. I went down to the kitchen, made coffee, sat at the table staring at the steaming cup, unable to drink it. How do you prepare yourself to lose a daughter? How do you say goodbye to someone you've held since she was a baby, but who was never truly yours? At 2 in the afternoon, Sloane came downstairs carrying 2 large backpacks and a small suitcase. She had packed more than I expected. She really wasn't planning on coming back. You don't have to do this, I tried one last time. We can talk to Ramona, find a solution that works for everyone. The solution is me leaving. It's you and that man finally facing the consequences of what you did. Dashiell was sitting on the couch, his head in his hands. He hadn't slept in days. I could tell from the deep shadows under his eyes, the stubble on his face, the wrinkled clothes. He was falling apart, and part of me pitied him. Part of me wanted him to fall apart completely. At 2:50, an old car stopped in front of the house. Ramona stepped out of the driver's side. She was wearing faded jeans and a worn leather jacket. She looked thinner than she had at the cafe, more fragile. But there was something in her eyes when she looked at our house, at our windows, that was pure triumph. Sloane picked up her bags. "You're not even going to say goodbye?" I asked, my voice breaking. She paused at the door. She didn't turn around, just stood there, her back to me. "Goodbye, Brielle," she said. And it was the first time in days she'd used my name instead of pretending I didn't exist. "I hope someday you understand that you were his victim too, but I can't stay here being the reminder of what he did." She walked down the steps as Ramona opened the trunk. They hugged, and in that embrace I saw everything I was losing. The chance to watch my daughter grow, to see her live the life I dreamed for her. All of it taken away by lies that weren't even mine. They got into the car. Ramona started the engine, and that was when Dashiell stood up. "No," he said, his voice raw. "No, I won't let this happen." He ran out of the house before I could react. He ran into the street, standing in front of Ramona's car with his arms spread wide. "Get out of the way, Dashiell!" Ramona shouted through the window. "You're not taking my daughter!" "Your daughter?" Ramona laughed, a harsh sound. "She was never yours. You stole her, and now I'm taking back what was always mine." Sloane opened the passenger door and stepped out. "Dad, move." "No, not until you understand that this woman doesn't love you. She's doing this for revenge, for money. She'll use you and throw you away again." "Like you used me?" Sloane shot back. "Like you used me to fill the emptiness your wife left behind? I love you. I always have. Love doesn't steal. Love doesn't lie. Love doesn't hit." She touched her face, where the mark from his slap had faded, but the memory was still fresh. Dashiell looked at me, desperate. "Brielle, help me. Talk to her. She listens to you." "She doesn't listen to me," I said from the porch, "and I won't stop her. If she wants to go, she has the right." "Right?" He turned to me, his face twisted. "What right? We raised her. We deserve nothing. You took that right from us the moment you lied." Ramona honked. "Dashiell, last chance. Move or I'll run you over." He didn't move. He stood there stubborn, the way men who are used to control always do. Ramona pressed the gas. Not much, just enough for the car to jolt forward. Dashiell stumbled but didn't move. She accelerated again, pushing him a few feet. "Ramona, stop!" Sloane shouted. But Ramona didn't stop. There was something in her face, a cold determination that told me she was willing to go all the way. She wanted to hurt Dashiell. She wanted him to pay for every year she had lost. Dashiell understood it too. He finally stepped aside, tripped on the curb, and fell to his knees. Ramona laughed. "Pathetic. You've always been pathetic." She drove off, the tires screeching on the pavement. Sloane looked back one last time. Our eyes met. She raised her hand, a small gesture that could have meant goodbye or just acknowledgement. Then she turned away and didn't look back. I ran to Dashiell. He was crying, loud, ugly sobs I had never heard from him before. "We have to do something," he said between tears. "We have to bring her back. We can't. It's too late." "No, it's not too late. I'll fix this. I'll admit everything. I'll go to the police. I'll do whatever it takes. But I can't lose my daughter." I helped him up. We went back inside the empty house. Sloane's door was open, her bed unmade, drawers empty. She had taken everything that mattered. The following days were a blur. We tried calling, sending messages. Sloane blocked our numbers. We tried the address Ramona had given us, an apartment in Tacoma. It was empty. They had lied about where they were going. Dashiell spiraled. He stopped going to work, stopped eating, just sat in the living room staring at old photos of Sloane as a baby, as a child, smiling in birthday and Christmas pictures that now looked like scenes from a movie built on lies. Then, 3 weeks later, we received a message. It wasn't from Sloane. It was from Ramona. "Meet us at Blue Ridge Overlook tomorrow at 8 p.m. Sloane wants to talk. Come alone. No police." Dashiell read the message 5 times. "It's a trap. I know. But if Sloane wants to talk, I'm going. Brielle, Ramona doesn't have good intentions. I'm afraid. But I have to go." The next day we drove to the Overlook. It was a secluded place on top of a hill overlooking the valley. Few people went there, especially at night. The parking lot was empty except for Ramona's old car. We parked beside it. Sloane was in the back seat. When she saw us, she got out. She looked thinner, her face tired. 3 weeks with Ramona had already left its mark. "Sloane," I began, taking a step toward her. "No," she raised her hand. "Stay there. I just came to say one thing." Dashiell and I stopped. We waited. Ramona told me everything, every detail. How you threatened her, Dad. How you forged evidence against her. How you used your contacts to make her look like a drug dealer, a prostitute. Anything to justify taking me away from her. "Sloane, she's lying, twisting the truth. I'm tired of lies," she shouted. "Tired of both of you telling your own versions like I'm too stupid to see what's real." Ramona got out of the car. She stood beside Sloane, placing a possessive hand on the girl's shoulder. "The truth is you're a thief, Dashiell. You stole my daughter. You stole 17 years I'll never get back. And now you're going to pay." "Pay how?" Dashiell asked, his voice tense. Ramona smiled. "Get in the car." "What?" "You heard me. You and your fake wife. Get in the back seat. Now." "Why would we do that?" I asked. "Because if you don't, I'll go to the police. I'll tell them everything. The forged documents, the blackmail, all of it. Dashiell will go to prison. You'll lose everything. But if you get in the car, if you cooperate, maybe we can find an agreement." Dashiell looked at me. I saw the fear in his eyes, but also resignation. We had reached the end of the line. There were no more exits. We got in the car. Ramona locked the doors. Sloane slid into the driver's seat. "What are you going to do?" Dashiell asked. "Justice," Ramona said from the passenger seat. Sloane started the engine. She drove, not toward the main road, but down a dirt path leading to the far side of the Overlook. The side with no guardrail, only the drop. My heart raced. "Sloane, stop the car." "No," she said, her voice empty. "I won't stop. Sloane, please, for God's sake." She pressed the accelerator. The car sped toward the edge. Dashiell tried to open the door. Locked. He tried to break the window. Nothing. "Sloane!" I screamed. "You're not a killer. Don't do this." She didn't answer. She just went faster. And then, at the last second, she swerved, slammed the brakes. The car stopped inches from the cliff. Everyone was gasping. Sloane was trembling, her hands gripping the wheel. "That was so you'd feel it," Ramona said coldly. "So you'd feel what it's like to lose everything." She got out. Sloane followed. They stood outside looking at us through the glass. Then Sloane put the car in neutral. Together, she and Ramona began to push. The car started rolling toward the cliff. "No!" Dashiell shouted, pounding on the window. "Sloane, don't do this!" But they kept pushing. The car gained speed. The edge came closer, closer. Ramona gave one last shove. The car plunged into the void. The fall seemed to last forever, and a single second all at once. My stomach lurched to my throat, the world spun, and then came the impact. Metal twisting, glass shattering, my body slammed against the seatbelt with enough force to knock every breath from my lungs. Silence, then pain. Everything was pain. I opened my eyes slowly. The car lay on its side, wedged between rocks and trees about 20 meters below the Overlook. The smell of gasoline was strong and sickening. Blood was running down my forehead, stinging my eyes. I tried to move. My left arm wouldn't respond, hanging at a strange angle. "Dashiell?" My voice came out weak. A groan from the front seat. He was alive. Then I heard voices above. Sloane and Ramona at the edge, looking down. "Do you think they're dead?" Sloane asked, her voice oddly calm. "Let's wait a little while to be sure," Ramona answered. They didn't come down to check. They just stood there watching. Dashiell dragged himself from the front seat to the back. His face was covered in blood, a deep gash above his eye. He leaned close to me, so close I could feel his breath against my ear. "Don't move. Pretend you're dead." I wanted to ask why, but he placed his hand over my mouth. His eyes pleaded for me to trust him. Then I heard what he must have heard first. Footsteps descending the slope carefully. Sloane was coming to check. I closed my eyes. I slowed my breathing. I stayed perfectly still even as every nerve in my body screamed in pain. I heard Sloane come close to the car, the crunch of stones under her shoes. She looked through the shattered window. "They're dead," she shouted up to Ramona. "Are you sure?" "Yes. There's blood everywhere. No one survives that." "Then let's go, before someone shows up." The footsteps receded, climbing back up the hill. The sound of their engine starting. The car driving away until the noise faded completely. Silence again. I opened my eyes. Dashiell was still beside me, gasping for air. "Why did you make me pretend?" I asked. He didn't answer right away. He just looked at me with those green eyes I'd known for 20 years, and in that look, I saw something that chilled me to the bone. "Because I need to tell you the truth before it's too late." "What truth?" "Dashiell, the car could explode. There's no time. I can feel the blood in my lungs. Minutes, maybe less." He coughed, blood spattering his lips. "And you have to know." "Know what?" Ramona wasn't lying. "Not about anything. I really did blackmail her. I made up that she was a drug dealer, used my contacts to create a fake dossier. I offered her money at first, yes, but when she wanted Sloane back, I threatened to destroy her life if she didn't disappear. I already knew that, Sloane had told me, but hearing it from him, in that frightening calm, was different. And there's more," he continued. "The reason I did it, it wasn't for you. It wasn't to fulfill your dream of becoming a mother. It was because Sloane is my real daughter." The words didn't make sense at first. My real daughter. As if, "You and Ramona," I whispered, understanding. "You slept with her." He nodded, blood slipping from the corner of his mouth. "She was my lover. For months. When she found out she was pregnant, she panicked. So did I. You couldn't know. Our marriage, my reputation, everything would have collapsed." Each word was a knife. "So you made up the story about the client, the victim of domestic violence." "Yes. I convinced Ramona to have the baby, promising I'd raise her. She agreed. But after Sloane was born, Ramona changed her mind. She wanted to keep her daughter. That's when I had to take more drastic measures. You stole your own daughter from her mother and made me raise her, not knowing you had betrayed our marriage." "Yes, 20 years. 20 years of marriage. 17. Raising a child born from my husband's betrayal, and I never knew. Why are you telling me this now? Because I'm dying, and because you deserve to know before you die too. You deserve to know that I was a monster, that I used you, Ramona Sloane. I used everyone to build the life I wanted without consequences." He coughed again, more blood spilling out. His breathing grew shallow, ragged. "Dashiell, wait. I'll try to call for help." I reached for my phone in my pocket. My fingers were numb, but I managed to grab it. No signal. Of course not. We were at the bottom of a ravine. "It's no use," he murmured. "And maybe it's better this way. Maybe this is the justice I deserve." "And me? Do I deserve to die for your crimes?" "No. You never deserved any of this. You were too good for me. You always were." He closed his eyes. His breathing stopped. I stayed there, trapped in the twisted wreck beside the body of the man who had been my husband, my partner, my betrayer. I cried, not for him, but for myself. For the naive woman who believed every lie, who built her life on sand. I don't know how long I stayed there. The sun began to set. The air grew cold. I drifted in and out of consciousness until I heard voices, shouts, flashlights cutting through the dark. "There's someone alive here!" Hands pulling me from the car. A stretcher. An ambulance. A hospital. I woke 3 days later. The police were waiting. I told them everything, every detail. The betrayal, the theft, the blackmail, the attempted murder. I gave names, dates, evidence. Investigators found the forged documents, the payments to Ramona, everything. Sloane and Ramona were arrested a week later. First-degree murder and attempted murder. They would spend decades in prison. I visited them before the trial. Sloane was in a separate cell, wearing an orange jumpsuit, her face expressionless when she saw me through the glass. I picked up the phone. She picked up hers. "I came to tell you I won't testify against you," I said. "Why?" "I tried to kill you. Because despite everything, you're still my daughter. And I understand the pain that led you here. Your father, my ex-husband, he destroyed so many people. You, me, Ramona, we were all his victims in different ways. Tears ran down Sloane's face. The first real tears I'd seen since it all began. He told you, didn't he? The whole truth. He did. Before he died. I'm sorry. For you. For everything you lost because of him. So am I. For you. I placed my hand on the glass. After a moment, she did the same on the other side. Do you still want me to call you Mom? She asked. I stayed silent for a moment, then simply answered, always. 3 years have passed. Sloane is serving time for manslaughter. Her plea deal reduced the sentence to 15 years with the possibility of parole in 8. Ramona got life. She was an adult. She planned everything. The jury had no mercy. I visit Sloane twice a month. We talk about small, safe things, books she's reading, courses she's taking, her plans for when she gets out. We never mention Dashiell. We never speak of that night in the ravine. I sold the house. I couldn't live there anymore, surrounded by the ghosts of a life that never truly existed. I bought a small apartment near the coast. It's mine alone, free of poisoned memories. I found out recently that Dashiell had a life insurance policy I didn't know about. He left everything to me, dirty money from a life of lies. I refused at first, but my lawyer convinced me to accept. I use part of it to pay for a better attorney for Sloane, to make sure she has the best defense possible for her parole hearing in 5 years. Sometimes I wake in the middle of the night hearing the sound of metal twisting. I relive the fall, the impact, Dashiell's voice whispering confessions that shattered the last pieces of who I was. I go to therapy. It helps, but it doesn't heal. Some wounds are too deep to ever truly close. Sloane wrote me a letter last month. She said she's studying psychology in prison, that she wants to understand why we made the choices we did, all of us. She said she doesn't blame me anymore, that she understands I was a victim too, manipulated and used by a man who saw people as chess pieces. At the end of the letter, she wrote, "You were the only real mother I ever knew. Ramona gave me life, but you gave me love. That has to count for something." I cried when I read those words. I kept the letter in a box with old photos, drawings she made as a child, all the fragments of our story that weren't completely destroyed by lies. I've learned that family isn't just blood or legal papers. It's who stays when everything falls apart. It's who visits you in prison even after you've tried to kill them. It's who still calls you daughter when the whole world says you don't deserve it. Dashiell died trying to ease his own guilt with confessions. Ramona lived feeding her hatred until it became poison. Sloane made terrible choices driven by pain and manipulation. And me? I survived. I'm no longer the naive woman who believed everything. I have scars, both visible and hidden, but I'm still here. Sometimes I wonder if I would have done things differently if I had known from the beginning. If Dashiell had told me the truth when he brought Sloane home, would I have accepted her? Would I have raised my husband's lover's child? I don't know. Maybe the desperation to be a mother would have outweighed the wounded pride. But I'll never know. That's the hardest part to accept. Every choice was taken from me. I lived a life that wasn't mine, inside a story written by someone else. Now I write my own story. It's smaller, quieter, without grand drama, but it's real. Completely, painfully, wonderfully real. And when Sloane gets out of prison 5 years from now, if she wants to, there's a room waiting for her in my apartment. Not because we're bound by blood or documents, but because sometimes the truest families are the ones we choose to build from the ruins. Have you ever lost someone and kept loving them anyway?